Turn your Bibles to Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. So we spent some time looking at this verse yesterday. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are abomination unto the Lord thy God. So people had different perspectives of what this verse meant, how we should apply it, and what it means in our practical lives. What Moses intended when he penned these words. We did discuss the issue that we might not fully understand what this verse means. It doesn't mean that we don't understand the surrounding verses. What logic did we use for that? That just because we don't understand this verse doesn't mean we don't understand the surrounding verses. What argument did we use for that? A sister? The front row? No. Yeah. Do you understand my question? So you remember we read a quote, Early Writings, page 74. And why did we read that quote? Sister Joy, why did we read that quote? So we went to Early Writing 74 because we saw that in that vision that she has, these are detached thoughts, separate ideas that are dealing with different subjects, and we should deal with them separately. There may be some reason why God gave those independent thoughts together, so there may be some connection. I'm not denying that. But they are separate and distinct thoughts, and if you try to tie them together, you can get yourselves into problems. So when we come to Deuteronomy 22, if we don't actually fully understand what's going on in verse 5, doesn't mean we don't understand how we should treat our neighbour's ass. Verse 4 doesn't mean we don't understand how to treat baby birds if they get injured. So we tackled that issue, In fact, that point that we brought out there, where had we seen that previously? This concept, where did we see this previously? Brother Robert? We'd seen the same problem in Daniel 9, 26 and 27. It may be the same story, but they're independent thoughts. Remember that? We're getting the verses and we're cutting them up into 3 or 4 parts. And once you've got those 3 or 4 parts, we forget the numbers. We just join things together by theme. Remember that's what we did? Yeah? We haven't finished that exercise, but we recognize that even though it may be the same story, the great controversy, it's still different, dealing with different issues or different subjects. So just because you don't understand one portion does not mean you don't understand another portion. Is that correct? That's why you're seeing so many studies, so many presentations on the subject. When people take you to Daniel 9, where do they end? They end at the first part of verse 26, then they'll jump to 27, and then they'll finish their study. And most people therefore think that chapter 9 finishes in what year? In 34 AD. Most people think that. And the reason they do that is because very few presenters or teachers will go and explore the last parts of verse 26 and 27, because many people don't fully understand or wrestle with those parts of the verse. And so they're content to finish in the year 34 AD. And are they correct in their analysis, their understanding? Yes, they're correct. Did they understand the rest of the verse? No. So just because you don't understand one portion of a story doesn't mean you can't understand other portions, especially when they're independent thoughts. Now, we gave another example that was contrary to that. And what example was that? What example did we give that was contrary to that concept, Sister Schneider? It's the book of Daniel. My brother, which chapter? That we used a different technique, that we say it's all connected thoughts, therefore you can't cut them up. Tell me the chapter number. Not Daniel 8, wasn't Daniel 8. Daniel 11. Do you remember, Sister Schneider? Which verses? 36 down to 40. So we're going to use the logic that this is one theme. So therefore you need to understand all of those verses. We begin in verse 40. Sister Schneider, what word have we picked up? Verse 40. We're starting in verse 40. And at the time of the end. Him. We pick up the him. We don't know who that him is, so we need to trace it. And we're going to assume that that the him, or that pronoun, as you go back through the verses, is the same person all the way through. We did that in 9:26-27, and you come to the wrong answer when you do that. Yeah? Even if we don't even understand what the proper answer is, we can see that we're making mistakes because we're not doing that job properly. So you can't simply take the prince and the prince, 26, 25, chapter 9. But we're doing that very same thing in chapter 11. In fact, we don't even pick up the same word. Sometimes it's him, sometimes it's his, not king. Sometimes it's he. 3 separate pronouns, him, his, he. And we say they're always the same person, and you go back to verse 36. And what's the problem in verse 36? Miller's rules. What's the problem in verse 36, my brother? Miller's rules. What rule? Which word are we picking up in verse 36?
What we are picking up is the king.
Which word?
Is the definite article.
The. So, what choices do we have? Definite article or indefinite? So it's what 2 words? The or A. Who told you that? Which rule number?
I think it's rule number 2.
Not rule number 2. Benjamin? Which rule number?
1.
He said rule number 1. I don't think it's rule number 1. Why don't we like A in this movement? Sorry? So it's rule number 5. So why don't we like the answer that people give for 36? Give me a paraphrase of what the person says.
The reason why we don't like is because we see that the teacher now becoming a rule, not Bible becoming a rule.
What did he say?
He said that rule number 5 saying...
No. The person who comments on this, what did he say that we don't like?
He said a king.
Yeah, but he said something before. He didn't just say a king. He says, if we can trust this scholar, I found this nice piece of work, dug it up somewhere, and he says it's A, and I like A better than the, so let's just change it to A. And we said, what did we say? See, Lee, you can't do that. We're not going to accept that. If it says the, it's the. So you can't say, I found some Hebrew scholar somewhere, and because he says it's A, therefore it will be A, and we'll run with that. And we're going to completely destroy and change verse 40. Does everybody understand that? Does everybody understand why it does that? If you don't understand, put your hand up. Why does that make a big difference? So we all understand? My brother, you don't understand why. So a few people don't understand why. So if it's the king, if there were 3 kings and I said the king did that, which one of those 3 am I talking about? Do you know? Yes. You do, because I said the king. So you and I have a relationship, and I said the king did that, and you know which one because I said the king. Because in the sentence before, I was talking about France. Having a conversation about France, and I said the king. Now Europe's got lots of kings. So which king was I speaking about when I said the king? You see that? Because I spoke about France before. Yes? So if I say the king, somewhere before I must have spoken about that king. Or, I said it last week, last year, you have information that you know which one I'm speaking about for me to say the. If you didn't have information, it would be illegal, wrong for me to say the king. Because the first thing you're going to say is, which one? So if I say the king, I know that you know which one. So if it's the king in 36, then we say everyone knows what king it is. What king is it in 36 when we say the king? Before we answer that, how many kings are there in chapter 11? Sister Elizabeth, how many kings are there in chapter 11? How many kings are there in chapter 11? Sorry? So begin from verse 5. How many kings? 2 kings. King of the north, king of the south is 2 kings. Yeah? So there's 2 kings. Sister Solange, verse 36. Which king is this? The southern king or the northern king? How do you know it's the northern one? From the previous verse, from verse 35. Don't tell me which verse, just tell me the story. How do you know it's the king of the north? Because I don't think you might be able to do it from verse 35. Just tell me the concept. How do you know? Now you're repeating what we've already said. We've already done that. So now Sister Elizabeth said the whole of 11. Then she said, did I mean from verse 5? I said, okay, we'll go from verse 5. She said, there are 2 kings, south or north. I said, which one? You said the north. I said, tell me why you know it's the north. Don't read the verse. When you read the verse, you'll get the wrong answer. I want you to put your phone down and tell me the concept or the story. How do you know it's the north? I can't hear you. The things that the king is doing points to the northern king. You might be wrong. So that's not the answer. How do we know for sure?
I think when you read verse 36, it has the article there. And the article there tells you this is a definite article. So if the king, definitely is a specific king.
You repeat it. We already did that. How do you know it's the northern one?
If you
Don't take us to the verse. Just tell me how you know. Sorry?
history,
What did you know about history?
when you understand the last verses from verse 30,
It's simple. We need simple answers. They were both working before. Don't take us to the verse, just tell me the story. Sorry? I don't want to know what verse it is.
So we see in verse 29.
Carry on.
But the king of the north is going to return
No. Simple. Simple.
The king of the south dies and we see him resurrecting.
The king of not the resurrection, we're in verse 36. The king of the south has been killed. All you need to do is find out which verse it says in that, which I don't want to do. But if you go through the story, the king of the south got killed. He got defeated, he got destroyed. That's fine. But what I don't want to do is about the return bit. All I wanted, the simple answer is the king of the south is dead. So when it says the king in verse 36, there's only one king left. We need to be able to trace a story through these chapters. And the problem is, because it's complicated, you're going through multiple kingdoms, and the king of the north tithe is being transferred, and then you have repeat and enlarge, which makes it even more difficult. You can get tied up in this issue. And then we go into the detail to try and find or ascertain what's happening. We should always try and find a simple story. And then we can confirm that as we go into the detail. If we were to confirm the details, we know that that version is correct. Simple answer is the king of the south is dead. There's only one king left. No more kings. Now, Smith knows that. He knows there's only one king left. And by the time you get to these verses, that one king is whom? It's the Pope. He knows that it's the Pope. There aren't any kings left. He understands the transfer. So he can't get that to work. Because when you go to verse 40, there's no papacy in this story. Is there? No. So he has to go back to 36 and change that king. And we say he does that illegally because he's breaking rule number 5. Which is all fair and good if you really wanted to be rigid in verse 40. But when we go to the omega, what's the omega? Verse 40 is the alpha. What's the omega? Sorry? 41. Not 41. You could say 41, but no, 40 is the alpha. The last verse, 45. What do? We say, we don't like it this way, this version. So some clever person told us that we can change in to and because he likes it that way. So what's the difference? What's the difference between our approach to 45 and our approach to 40? Is there any difference? No, it's just that we call the second man whom? The prophet, the first angel. Therefore, we say he's got a right to do that. Is that correct? We'll call him the first angel? Isn't it? Well, you say no, that's not. You're saying it's not correct. No, I mean, is it correct, the logic that I'm saying? No, is the logical sequence, is that we all agree that that's what we do? That's what I mean, is that correct? Yeah? I'm not giving a false version. We take a prophet. How do we know he's a prophet? He's a messenger, he's the first angel. The first angel says, you can change what? You can change in to the. In to and. And we say, because he's a prophet, it's the first angel, we don't argue. Because a prophet is whose voice? God's voice. So is it breaking rule number 5? No, it's God's voice. Is it breaking rule number 5? No, it's not, because it's God. It's not man. Yeah? Are we okay with that? Give me a second. What's rule number 5 say? The The Bible should be its own expositor because it's its own rule. And don't listen to human beings. So don't listen to human beings. So if the Bible is a rule unto itself, which Bible are we talking about? The Old Testament or Paul's commentary, which then becomes the New Testament? So it's the rule unto itself. Which one are we going to follow? 39 books or Paul? That's Robert. Which one are you going to follow? The 39 books or Paul? Not sure? Both, because Paul is going to do what? He's going to rule. He's going to follow the same rule. If he follows the same rule, it's okay. Didn't we read that? Not read that. Didn't we say that? You can go to any human being. If they follow the same rule, which means they don't do what? They don't guess. They don't do the sect. And they don't have pride. If they don't do those three things, then they're following the rule. Therefore, you can trust them. Therefore, we call Paul a trusty teacher. But we don't want to do that, so we call him a prophet. Yeah, so we put him on a pedestal to excuse ourselves in following the rule properly. You okay with that? So therefore, if some sister stands up and starts turning the Bible inside out and upside down, we can trust her. It's not breaking rule number 5 if she's not guessing, if she doesn't have a sectarian position, and if she's not showing off. So we go to the first angel, Elder Jeff Pippinger, and we say, according to our understanding, what? He's not guessing. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't have a sectarian creed, his own private interpretation, and he's not showing off because he's a humble person. Therefore, we trust him. We call him the first angel. And therefore, if he says it's and, it's and. And we don't question it. We okay with that? Okay? What's the problem? The omega is whom? What do we want to call that person? Verse 45, that omega. What do we want to call that person? Prophet. Now the problem is when you go to the alpha, verse 40, and we want to start playing with that him, what do you say about that person? It's not a prophet. Smith is a nobody. And we don't even care if Ellen White says he's whom? He's God's helping out. We don't even care about that. So we're not interested. We agree with that. What's the problem? What's the problem? Put your hand up. Someone else. So you need to know a bit of stuff, or you need to have watched enough presentations, or, yeah, we'll go with those two. Someone else, come on. There's lots of people here. Who's watched presentations? Who knows the direction in which we're going? That we know what the problem is. The class knows what the issue is. My brother at the back.
Okay, like what I'm seeing is like
Before you go, if you don't give the answer that I want, I normally cut people off. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. If I already know you're not going to give me the right answer, I won't bother. It's not that I don't like your answers, but I want to get to the answer as quick as possible. So give me the answer. If I cut you off, don't think I'm being rude.
okay, maybe it might not be right. So
It's okay. I get nervous.
what I'm saying is that this one is violating the rule of balancing.
No. You might be right, but that's not what the answer I want. It's really simple. Someone else. No one? So we say $40, I'm going to call it the alpha, and 45 is the omega. Okay? I only did that not because I want to do some clever thing with alpha and omega. It wasn't my intention. I just wanted to take us to the beginning of the problem and the end of the problem. So it begins in verse 40, and what's the problem? Him. And we say Smith wants to change that. And he says, I'm going to present before you my favorite teacher. And if my teacher, he can't even say it is correct, he just says, if it's correct, who would trust that? He says, if I'm correct, or my teacher's correct, I can change the into a. And we say, are we going to believe that? This is Smith and his friend. We're not going to do that. That's crazy. We will not accept that. So here, we're going to take in and change it to and. Is that right? I've got that right? So this is the older Jeff Pippinger who's saying that. And he says, if we could change in into and, it would all be good. It would all be okay. In fact, he doesn't even say if we could do that. He just says we will do that because we all know that if it was in, it won't work. And we say, who are you to say such a thing as that, changing inspiration? And he says, I'm the first angel's messenger, which makes you a messenger, which makes you a prophet. Are we okay with that? Yeah? Everything. So, for those who weren't sure what I was saying, we accept this one because it's a prophet, and we don't accept this one because it's a person. So we reject that and we accept that. So we understand. So my question is, what's the problem with that? With our logic. Put your hand up. Go ahead.
Perhaps that he tried to say that we are the false prophet and he is
No. Brother?
I think Uriah Smith is trying to guess because he's saying if we could trust the other person.
So Uriah Smith is trying to guess, then that means we're correct in all of this. And I'm saying we're wrong in all of this.
Okay, Uriah Smith takes another person's work and he places it in
Brother?
They are following man.
Which man? That one? No, we can't do that. We just went through that a few minutes ago. Is this following man? No. This is not following man. This is not what rule number 5. We're not breaking rule number 5 by doing this. We're following rule number 5 because this man here is not showing off. He's not guessing. And he doesn't have his own creed, his own doctrine. We don't believe he's having a creed because of his status. I'm asking you how we approach the problem. Are we okay with that? So we're going to go with what my brother said. He said, Smith copies from someone. So who did Smith copy his work from? From whom? From? He copied it from the first angel. His name was Lich. If you're willing and able to stretch your minds a bit and have Miller and Lich both symbolizing the first angel, if you're willing and able to do that. Who is not willing or able to do that? Put your hand up if you can't see it, if you're not willing, if you think that's wrong, to make Lich the first angel. Don't agree with that?
No,
Okay.
I think it is wrong, but I want to understand it.
Okay.
Where it come from.
You don't agree with that?
I don't think the both could be first angel. Because Mila is the first angel. And I don't see the reason bringing Rich also to be the first angel together with.
Okay. So, you agree with that? Sister Jackie? Explain it. One person doesn't agree and one person just wants an explanation. Lich is using the same principle that Miller used. So she agrees. So Samuel Snow, did he use the same rules as Miller?
Yes.
So he's the first angel as well. Your answer is no. So the answer isn't sufficient to just say they're using the same rules. Need a bit more detail. So I want to know if you know more detail or not. Do you know more details than what you're given? They're following the same rules. So that's the first step that we take. What rule are they both using? Day for a year. So we'll go through that. So Miller is using 1 day equals 1 year. And Lich is using day for a year. Miller says what? So Miller says Miller says 1843. I'm guessing. Lich says, the Lich says, the fulfillment is August 11th, but what does Lich say? For a start, don't shout out, and the other thing, it's the wrong answer. Okay, so who is Lich? What angel is he? Bit more. Bit more than that. What is August 11th, 1840? What is that? Okay, so Lich is? So Lich is the empowerment of the first. And Miller is the arrival of the first. So what is Lich's message? Okay, what is the first angel saying? It's on the board. No, just what's on the board. What is the first angel saying? No, that's the methodology. What's he saying? First angel says 1843. Lich is saying, no, Lich is saying, it's the same angel. Same angel, same message. What is Lich saying? Just copy what's on the board. Good. Lich is saying 1843 as well. My brother? He said 1843 what? What did Miller say? 1843. It's on the board.
I don't understand the question.
Just answer, what did Miller say? No. 1843. Guess. Litch says 1843. Fact. Yeah? The confirmation of Miller's methodology is what empowers the message. Does that make sense, my brother? Miller is flying around the earth in Revelation 14, verse 6. You agree with that? First angel. Don't ask me why. 4 chapters back, in chapter 10, Litch comes down to earth and puts one foot on the earth and one foot on the sea, and he gives a worldwide message because now the book is unsealed. And he cries, or someone cries, 7 thunders. He begins to explain 2 things. What's he going to explain? It's right here. What's he going to begin to explain? He's going to explain the past and the future. And what do we call the explanation of the past and the future? What do we call it? 7 thunders. So 7 thunders. The cry that he gives, that loud cry, is the 7 thunders, which is what? An explanation of the past and the future. He confirms that, which is what Miller could not do. Miller could not do this in the way that Litch can do it. So Litch is going to empower or confirm this message. Therefore, he becomes the same messenger. Is that okay? No, it's not. Yeah.
So I believe so.
Okay, so you can see that is reasonable.
I believe as empowerment.
Yes.
Because the histories, all the histories before and after shows that there is always the empowerment of the first angel. But that thing doesn't justify that the empowerment of the first angel, the messenger of the empowerment is classified the same as the first angel. In fact, it's under the same history of the first angel. But it is the arrival who come to the message is what is being seen there clearly. And the empowerment is under the work of the first angel.
So let me ask you a question. The angel of Revelation 10, is that the first angel or another angel? Okay, so that's why you disagree with this model. You disagree because I believe that the angel of Revelation 10 is the first angel, and you believe it's a different angel. So if you believed it was the same angel, this would not be a problem. So it's about our approach to chapter 10 and how to explain what and who that angel is. Can you see that? I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong, but I want us to know that what the reason why we come to different conclusions is because our starting point is different. So I believe that chapter 10 is the first angel, and you believe it isn't. So I don't have any problems that it's a different man, because when he came, he just said, I'm the first angel and this is what's happening. And you're saying, this is another angel that comes down to help him.
So we have 2 first angels.
No, only one first angel. They're only symbols. They're only symbols.
The Islamic vision is correct. That one is the empowerment of the first angel. But we still see the first angel transpires. And there are so many histories about the first angel. We can't make them down and we say all of them are first angel. So the same thing at our line. There is a first angel. Though it is empowered, it still is the first angel.
Who's the first angel in our history? Sorry?
In our history, yeah, 1999.
And who's the person that came to give power to his message in 2001? This other person. You're not sure. But it's not him. In fact, you're saying it can't be him. Is that right? No, but I'm asking, it cannot be him. Because that's the logic that you use for the Millerite history. It cannot be the same person. It can be. It could be the same person. But it can't be. It can be the same person. So in this history, it wasn't the same person. But in our history, it can be the same person.
So it varies. In different histories, can be the same, cannot be the same in another history. But there's nothing much you stress on the empowerment, as long as there's a message of empowerment, either the same person or different person.
Okay, so I don't want to get into a discussion of chapter 10. So we'll just agree to disagree. For the purpose of my study, it doesn't matter if we disagree. I'll show you why. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? Okay, so two people had questions on it. So if this is an angel that comes down, you agree with that? He's an angel, and he's an angel. Yes? So this person here is Lich, and Lich is an angel. Yes? So if Lich is an angel, and this is Lich, so is Lich a man or is Lich an angel? Asking my brother.
He's an angel.
So he's an angel. An angel is a messenger, and therefore is he showing off, guessing, or have his own creed? No. So this is the voice of God. So if this is the voice of God, I'll put here 1E. You okay with that? That's what you're okay to call it 1E here? So it's 1E. So this is an angel. And this angel that comes from God says what? What did this angel from God say? Now we've gone to a different subject. We're finished that one. Now we're on this one. Same person. This angel said what? He said, if we can trust this really great, reliable teacher that I have confidence in, and therefore the teacher and me are one, whoever that Hebrew scholar was, then we can change the into a. Does he have the authority to do that? As much authority as this person has to do this, because they're the same person, or at least they're both angels. If we don't want to, at least they've both got a number 1 attached to them. If we don't want to say that they're both the actual angel itself. It's the one that gives power to the first angel, and it's the first angel himself. Can we see that? So the way we use these rules, we need to be careful with. It was a bit of a distraction, but this is such an important point for us to see. And this study's been around for a few months now, maybe coming up to a year. And I'm not sure if people see not only the importance of it, but the logic that's behind it. Because Future for America will not accept this perspective that we have here. They believe it to be wrong. So it's all about going back to the methodology, checking our facts carefully. So if they were right and they said Smith and Pippinger, we would know that our old way of viewing things was correct. But it's not that way. It's actually Lich and Pippinger. And we say, if you don't know what's going on, that doesn't help, because Lich is as bad as Smith. They're both men. But then we say, actually, Lich isn't just a man. I want to say he's the first angel. My brother wants to say he's the empowerment of the first, and that's fine. But it still makes him an angel. So he has authority. He has God-derived authority, and he's in agreement with rule number 5. He's not breaking the rule. So even though he said, if this could be, we just get rid of that if, say, you didn't really mean that, because you're God. Therefore, if you say we can change it, we can change it. Must be correct. That's where we would start our study. That's where we would start our logic and our argument. The details are only secondary and tertiary witnesses. So I could say, to defend that, they had a 10-year proxy war. As soon as you hear a 10-year proxy war, you say, oh, he must be correct then. 10-year proxy war is not the primary argument, I would suggest. The fundamental argument is, who are these people and what authority do they have? Anybody have any questions on that? How we've approached that? How we've used rule number 5 here?
Mine is not a question. I want just to agree on that point, because Lich is not guessing as Smith do. And that's why we want to bring him.
Smith is not?
Smith is guessing. And
Okay.
Lich is not guessing, because he's an angel to empower the first. So his work is the work of the angel, the same to the work of the first angel in our history, verse 45. So I think that model is correct.
So if I say, I like this, am I guessing?
If
What?
you don't show that it's the work of Lich, you are guessing.
So okay, if I don't attribute it to Lich, if I say it's my work,
You are a student, that you copy of your teacher, and you don't want to show.
do I need to use his name?
We will first see you. Who are you? If you are not an angel, you are guessing.
So if I don't use his name, am I exhibiting Godal, or I'm guessing because I never used his name? So in that context, you're saying Smith is guessing because Smith is just copying his work. But he doesn't say as a footnote, oh, I copied this from Lich. He just says, this is the fact.
Because the word if shows that it is not confident. He said, if I'm correct.
Lich said, no, he copied that from Lich. Lich said the same thing. He cut and pasted Lich's words, and Lich said, if this scholar is right, we could do this. Smith didn't add anything. Smith just cut and paste. He says, if the scholar's right, and he just copied him. He didn't say, oh, I got that from Lich. So we just say, you worked that out yourself, Smith, bad man. And if he was going to defend himself, he goes, wasn't me, I just plagiarized it. So we can say your worst criminality is you plagiarize, which is Godal. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Smith. I don't think that was his motivation. But if you wanted to attack him, you could attack him on that. You can't attack him for copying correctly. Just want to make sure we understand. Smith doesn't say if this person is right. Lich says that. And we say Lich has got full authority. Don't say if, Lich. We know it's true because of who you are. Because Elder Jeff Pippinger could have said the same. If we could change into and, everything would work out. In fact, that's what he is saying. He has a fixed perspective of what this looks like. Everybody okay with that? We could all teach that? Yeah? Gone through it a couple of times now. I want us to be comfortable with this idea of what happened and how it happened and what the issues are. We know it's the king because we know the king is the king of the north. How do we know? Because the king of the south died. I want us to see it in that simple fashion. There's only one king left, so it must be that one. You go from verse 36 all the way down. What then we have to explain is where the king of the south come from, because we just died. So we have some additional work to do. We can argue that, how we go about doing that. We'll just say he got resurrected, popped out of somewhere, and then he begins to fight again with the king of the north. But if it's a king, brand new story. Now there are three kings, aren't there? South, north, and this new king. You go into the history and you have this version, which I'm going to say Ellen White agrees with, confirms, if you like. Does Ellen White confirm that Litch's version is correct about a king? So some people saying yes or no? Everyone's saying yes? So I want to suggest that she's commenting on that history, and we can infer, based upon her commentary, that it is so. Because the only thing she's going to confirm is 1840, August 11th, which is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, what are we talking about here, by the way? Not 1840, we're talking about 1798, 42 years before, completely different history. We're saying, oh, she confirmed that because she confirmed 40. So the reason why I mentioned that, because in Great Controversy, page 351, what is she going to do? She's going to comment on what? Two histories. Primarily the Millerite history. She's going to make a commentary on the Millerite history, use the history of Christ to explain or expand upon her point. And because of that, and she says the longest and the last prophecy, we say she's doing what? Commenting or confirming? We say she's confirming that the longest and last prophecy is the 2520, because the Millerites believe the 2520, and therefore she's commenting on that, she's confirming that. Is that sound logic? It's not sound logic. And in fact, it's not even factual logic, because you can show that it's not. That's not what she's doing. But we have a circumstantially based version that says, oh, that's what she must be doing that, because she comments on the history and says, that was a beautiful history. She must say it was a true history. And therefore, when it says the longest and the last, and the true history of the longest and the last is 2520, we construct a narrative about that. So we just need to be sure that we're not doing that here, that we're not making Ellen White project that when she confirms 40, that she's confirming 1798. Does everybody understand that? Yeah? Let's not go too far and get Ellen White to back us up, because I don't think she will back you up in this story. She loves Litch in 40, doesn't mean she loves Litch in 1798. It's not that straightforward, by the way I've just said that. If we get a chance to do a study on that, we will. So, that was all about methodology. How we proof text, how we use human wisdom. Coming back to Deuteronomy 22:5. There may be some connected thoughts through this chapter about what you can and cannot do. But these are individual, specific rules or regulations. 22 verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For everyone that does such a thing are abomination unto the Lord thy God. Now, yesterday I said, if you do that thing, you're an abomination. And someone corrected me and they said, I didn't make a point of it, I just moved on. I said, okay, fair correction. They said, they're doing an abominable thing. They're doing an abominable thing as opposed to becoming an abominable thing. And I might be wrong, I think I asked one of the sisters, you're going to wear my trousers? And she said yes. I said, oh, therefore you have become an abomination. And then someone says, no, she hasn't. What she's doing is an abomination. She's doing an abomination. She's not an abomination. Do you remember that conversation? It's only a passing point, so you may not, because I didn't labour the issue. Verse 5 says what? Is it the act of abomination, or is it the personification of abomination? Is it a verb or a noun? Do you do abomination or do you become abomination? Who says you do abomination? Who says you become abomination? My brother, you become abomination if you do this? Why do you disagree with them? They said you're doing abomination, you said you're becoming an abomination. Sorry? It says they're becoming an abomination. Where do you read that? Which word are you picking up out of all of that? Are. Can you see that, my brother? He says you are an abomination, not you're doing an abomination. As you're reading, my brother doesn't care if it's italicized. He's just not bothered. He just says, I don't care. Just so that if people are going to make that argument. Is that right? Yeah? He says, are is the important word. Rule number 1, most significant thought, you become abomination, you don't practice abomination. Brother William. Say the thing in your own words. You said you are an abomination, not you're doing. Why?
Because that is what the sentence says. It says if you wear garments that belongs to the sense you are an abomination, you become an abomination. I'm saying though that word is italicized, they think the translation when they have to because if we remove it, then the sentence now will not make sense. So I think the translators made a correct thing when they factored in there.
So Brother William says, you take the word are out, it says, for all that do so, abomination unto the Lord. So you have to put 2 words in. You become abomination, 1 word, or you do abomination. You've got 2 choices. You become one or you do it. And he trusts the translators that in the original Hebrew, the intent of that thought, when you read the Hebrew words, means you become the abomination. So he's trusting the King James translators to get that right, that the intent The meaning was you become. And what he's relying upon is that it's obvious. When you go back to the Hebrew, it's not something that you need to guess. If we could all read Hebrew, you could see that that's what those Hebrew words would mean. The way it's constructed, the way the sentence is put together, it would mean that you have become that, not that you're doing that. So that's why my brother ignored this, it's italicized. So we're okay with that. Do you want to clear that point up? You become an abomination if you do these things. You're not just practicing it. Is that unusual? So if you touch a pig, what happens to you? You become unclean. You haven't done an unclean act. You actually become unclean. So the concept of becoming something isn't unusual. Yeah? It's just that when we think about unclean, we don't think about it that bad. Abomination sounds really a horrible word. But it's the same idea. You become unclean, you become abomination. You okay with that? Yeah? So if this word was unclean and we said you become unclean, I think we wouldn't have any problems with that. It's just that when it says abomination, people don't like thinking that God would say, you are an abomination. So someone pointed out yesterday that when it speaks about the man compared to when it speaks about the woman, there are some subtle differences in the language. So do you remember someone saying that? Okay, so I'm just going to point out the differences. The woman, I'm going to quote from the King James, I'm going to use the word that the King James uses. The woman shall not. Are we okay with that? You can read it in the verses. The woman shall not. Then I'm going to... I don't think I thought about it when I did this, but I'll express it this way. I'm going to proof text the word shall. The woman shall not, neither shall a man. Can you find neither shall a man? Yeah, I'm saying they're the same thing. The woman shall not, neither shall a man. The woman shall not, the man shall not. Is there any difference there? That's... Who said yes? Who said yes? What's the difference? So I'm not arguing that the articles are different. Now, I'm not a Hebrew scholar, and I don't know if the articles were placed differently to make the English sound good, or that it actually makes a substantive difference in the original. So do you see that there's any substantive difference where it says, the woman shall not, and then it says, neither shall the man? We're okay with it's the same, yeah? Okay. So the next bit, it says, where, the woman shall not wear, and then the man, it says, put on. Wear, put on. So they're different. Perhaps in the English we say, if you wear something, you put on something, there doesn't look to be much difference. Yeah? The woman shall not wear, next thing, that which pertaineth. Pertaineth in English means what? Belongs. The woman shall not wear what belongs. Neither shall a man put on a garment. So we've got that which pertaineth and garment. So if we were to go with the thought intent in the English, are they the same? Yeah? That which pertaineth, what pertains to the man? What belongs to the man? A garment. A man's garment belongs to a man. And how do we know it's the garment? What are we just doing? Comparing and contrasting these two things. So if it's talking about a woman's garment, therefore we say it's talking about a men's garment. Yeah? What belongs to man? If the garment belongs to a woman, it must be a garment that belongs to a man. Okay? So we approach it that way. And the last part is unto a man, and then for a woman it says a woman's. Everybody okay with that? So we've just paralleled those two phrases. In the English, there are some differences. The end is the same. A man, a woman, they're the same. The beginning is the same. Shall not, shall not. The middle bits are different. When it talks about a man, it says wear. For a woman, it says put on. And for a man, it says that which belongs, or that which pertaineth. And for a woman, it just says garment. Now, what we do is we go to the thought intent, the intention of the thought. Is that good or bad? Depends. Mostly it's good. The difference between the King James translation and a revised version is what? What kind of a version is King James? Mostly. Let me rephrase my question. What kind of a translation is the King James? Direct. I'll call it literal. So they do try to make it make sense, but they try to make it literal as much as possible. So there's this tension that the translators have in trying to make it legible and also trying to be true to the intent. We could call it a direct translation or a literal translation, or you said, what would it? I'll use the word direct. Yeah? They try to say, if the person said cream, we wouldn't translate off-white. Yeah? We're trying to say, we will try to say cream as well. We wouldn't try to change it, even though they're the same thing. Off-white and cream are the same thing. What's the big deal? So they try to be as accurate as they can, at the same time to try to make it make sense. Do we understand the first criteria? Accurate translation. Yeah? Is that really important? Vital? Is that the most important thing for them? That they have to have word for word parity? Is that the most important thing for them? People have said yes. Some people have said no. Why do you say no? Intent. What is the intent of this Bible? Go back to the history. What's the intent of this Bible? Go with the name first. What is this Bible? King James. So this is the King James Bible. I just said that people, I don't mean to cut you off. King James. So now we want to know what the intent is. What's the intent? To fight the Catholics. Because the Catholics have got what kind of a Bible? A locked Bible, we'll say that. Yeah? No one can understand what this Bible is. This one, its intent, to make people understand it. So, the Catholic Bible is a Latin Bible, and how many people can understand Latin? Theologians, the clever people. What does everybody else understand? English. What kind of an English? A basic English. So the intent of this Bible is not to do an accurate translation. Primary one is to make it understandable. But they want to be careful how they do that because they don't want to play with God's word. So they have this tension. They want to make it literal or direct, but not at the expense of making it understandable. Is that a noble cause? Sure. So is the Revised Version, is the ISV, BBE, all of these, are they a noble cause as well? Could we say yes? Aren't they all trying to do exactly the same thing? Yeah? They want to just make it understandable to the normal person. I'm not trying to defend them. I know that the issue is more complex than that. But I just wanted us to see that the translators are struggling. They want to make it accurate as much as possible, but they also want to give, they also want to make it simple so that you can understand. So if we were going to do this, what would we say? The woman shall not wear men's clothes, neither shall men wear women's clothes. That's how we would have done that, isn't it? Yeah? Ellen White does that. That's what we would do. But the King James translators wanted us to say, or wanted us to understand, that the words that are used are not exactly the same words. So then they're not going to just do the thought idea. We do that. That which pertaineth means garment. We've projected that onto that. If you might ask one of those translators, do you think that's what it means? He might have said, sure it does. But he didn't want to say it that way. He wanted to go back to the original and try and keep accurate to that. And someone in the class noticed that. We were okay with that. Yeah? So we would check, why is that? Why did the translators choose to use different words? We know why they chose to. Because in the original it's different. We have that point? Okay? So then we had a discussion about why is it an abomination in the first place? I don't know if people have got any thoughts that we've developed. Tell me, why is it an abomination? What's so wrong with doing that? That's one thing that I'd like to have clarity on. Then I asked the question, when does this person become an abomination? I'm going to change it to say, when does it become an abomination? Is it when you do it privately or when you do it publicly? When does it become an abomination? And people have different answers, but the crunch came when my brother did what? Attacked me. He said, don't pick on the sisters. You tell me what you think. I'm going to throw it back at my brother. What did he think about wearing that skirt? Does he have a problem in the home? No. But he's not going to do it in public. So he's already got this built-in issue that he doesn't mind doing some abominable things in the house under certain circumstances, but there's no way he's going to do it in public. And what's the person done? Here he's just coming in now. So we're talking about you. So what did he do? He changed the whole nature of the verse and said it's all about what men think as opposed to what God thinks. And this is, we get problems in this, not just on this issue, but on other issues. We care more about what humans think than we care about what God thinks. And we try to make them similar. We'd say, what would the people think? What would they say about us? This verse has got nothing to do with that, because we don't even know why God even thinks it's wrong. Really, do we? We don't really even know why he thinks it's wrong. He just says it's wrong. So we say, well, if God thinks it's wrong, everyone else thinks it's wrong. But maybe the reason is completely different. Maybe we just think it's weird. or strange or not custom. So we need to address that. The reason why we want to address that is when people have approached this passage, a common scenario is this. Women will never wear trousers, based upon their understanding of this, ever. But if they live in a cold climate, they might wear pyjamas as opposed to a nightie. I don't know if you call it the same thing here. A nightie is a dress that you wear in bed, and pyjamas are trousers that you wear in bed. Now, when I was growing up, my mother never wore pyjamas. She always wore a nightie. I never thought about it. But today, I think many, many women who uphold this passage wear pyjamas. They believe in the passage, but they think it's okay to wear pyjamas because they say it's an emergency. And no one sees. No, even if they see, they don't mind, actually, because I've seen it all the time. Another emergency. They need to ride a bicycle. Won't go into that explanation. Another emergency. They need to cut the grass. Another emergency. They need to use a chainsaw. So lots of emergencies, and they don't have a problem wearing trousers. Women who uphold and believe this passage. But come Sabbath, what will they do? They will not wear trousers in the sanctuary because they think it's an abomination to God in the sanctuary, but it's not abomination to God in the bedroom or in the garden or on the bicycle. So I'm not criticizing that. I'm saying there are people who have that perspective. They've approached that way. And there are other people who have said you can never wear trousers. So I presume they would never wear pyjamas. They would always wear a nightie. If they're cutting the grass, they would always wear a skirt or a dress, and they would accept all the grass or the dangers of something hitting their legs and not receiving protection. They were chainsawing. They'd either say, we're not allowed to ever chainsaw, or they wouldn't use proper gauntlets, cut-proof trousers, which means they can never get a job in that because it's against the law not to do that because of health and safety issues. They wouldn't ride a bicycle on a windy day because you can obviously imagine what would happen. So they begin to limit and restrict themselves in what they're able to do. So this dress code, this verse, actually begins to define what a woman can and cannot do. We'll leave the bedroom bit apart. So you're not allowed to use a chainsaw and cut wood. You shouldn't really ride a bicycle because it's immodest. People can see right up your legs on a windy day, dangerous. Or you keep on shoving your skirt down and you're riding with one hand and you'll have an accident. Cutting the grass, even with a lawnmower, it's dangerous because a stone could easily come out and it could hit your leg and it can cause you severe damage because you don't have proper protection. I don't know what you call them, strimmers or weed whackers, I don't know what you call them here. Those things with a stick and they've got a wire at the end. They're extremely dangerous machines. You need to wear face guards, gloves, and you should always be protecting your legs. You could say, well, I wear the skirt, I'll put a pair of trousers underneath. So I don't know what the skirt is doing, appeasing God or something. But you're still going to wear the trousers, which pertaineth unto a man, we all know that. The problem is, if you wear a skirt, it's dangerous, because when you're not looking and get caught in something, you're using a machine, you trip over and that machine will just cut you up. So, you would not wear a skirt, even to appease God. So that means you shouldn't be cutting the grass. It's a man's job, of course. Riding a bike is a man's pastime. Women can walk, but shouldn't be riding a bicycle. So you begin to restrict or limit what women can do. They obviously can't ride a horse, but you'll get round that. You'll give them this crazy side saddle, if you've ever seen that. Riding a horse, and if you've ever ridden a horse, is dangerous and hard enough as it is. You ride side saddle, it's crazy. It really is. If you ride a horse, it's painful on the buttocks. When you ride side saddle, where is all the weight being taken on? It's not your bottom. It's on your thigh. If you go Google it. It's really a crazy thing that men do to women just so that they can wear a skirt when they're riding the horse. So they don't do that which pertaineth unto a man. I don't know how women do that actually. It's extremely painful. So what this verse ends up doing is either we read it as it is, and now women are going to be put into certain roles which they can do and which they cannot do. Or we say this only works in the sanctuary. So now we're going to read into this verse, only it's abomination in certain areas, which is why I asked the question, is an abomination in the house or when you go out? Just to make the distinction, in that story it was all about human beings, but in the sanctuary, it's about what God thinks. God doesn't mind you wearing trousers, cutting the grass, but he certainly doesn't want you to do it in the sanctuary. And if you believe that, why? Where did you get that logic from? From this verse? What are your thought processes? I'm not saying you're wrong, I just want to understand. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to give you praise and thanks for your goodness. Help us, Lord, to understand how methodology works. Help us to recognize the angels, the messengers that you send to us. May we be able to distinguish between the word of a human and your word. And Father, as we come to Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5, help us to understand what it is that you were trying to show us in this passage. We ask and pray for these blessings in Jesus' name.